Hi everyone, this is Andromeda Homes Limited's YouTube channel, and of course I am Tolulope Bukola-Ige, the MD of Andromeda Homes. This is Real Estate 101. Today we'll be talking about a very crucial topic in the real estate industry. If you're someone who has been looking up to build your own house, you want to own your own commercial edifice, then you need to watch this to the very end, because today we will be talking about building approvals in the real estate industry. Stay tuned. Now, today we'll be talking once again about building approval. So what is approval? Approval is a form of permission that you get from the government, giving you a permission to go ahead and build your house. Now, when we talk about approval, we look into set standards of the government on what they want. Now, for the government, when it comes to approval, there are hands that we call the town planning office. This is where most of the time you go to for your approval documents to be granted. Now, this means that whatever kind of house you want to build, it has to conform with set standards. Now, when we have a town planning office, every state, every country should have a plan. Now, when it has a plan, if you're looking at it from the area view, you will notice that there are schools somewhere, there are hospitals, there are hospitals, there are police stations. All these things are set aside accordingly. You find out that there's a serene environment, there are no what we call road networks, there are parks in between. This is why the town planning office are the ones that issues the approval on behalf of the state government. So this is what approval is all about. Why do you need approval? Approvals are very, very important before you start the process of building your house or whatever it is you're looking to build. Approval is important because they are set standards. If you look at the Western world, most people want to travel to the Western world. They compare the Western world to a developing country like ours, and they will wonder that there's so much disparity, there's so much differences. This is because these people have conformed with set standards. They have planned for their development and make sure that everybody conforms. So you don't wake up and just find a building springing up without the necessary approval. Now, approval is important if you do not want in future the building that you have told and labored on to be pulled down. Recently, we saw in the newspaper excerpt that the Lagos state government is granting a few people amnesty within 90 days for them to go and conduct what we call their approvals and conduct an as-built survey. When you are doing this, it means that you did not follow the set standards at the initial stage, which is very wrong. Now, as much as amnesty is going to be granted to some people, it does not mean everybody will scale through, because there are set standards you need to meet up. Now, why do you want to why do you want to do what you're supposed to do first as the last thing? By so doing, you are turning things around, and you would have problems in between. So even as much as they are giving amnesty, some people will still not be able to meet up with the set standard, and as such, those buildings will be marked for demolition. Recently, again, in one of the newspapers we read that about 80% of houses and buildings in the Lekki axis do not have approval. Why are we doing this? We have a lot of elite class in this axis, and of course most of them are not doing the needful. It is very crucial that you get your houses approved. Why do you need approval? You need it because for building any kind of house, there are set standards for setbacks, for the front of the house, for the back of the house, for the side of the house. There are set standards for your drainages. There are set standards for the kind of buildings. For ventilation purpose, there are set standards. Another reason why they have this approval is because every area is being mapped out by the Lagos state government or by the state government which your land is, residence. So they know the kind of land texture that there is over there. So before you go into the approval, they would have checked that you know the kind of land you're about to build on. They would have checked that you know that the building you're trying to build, if it's a skyscraper, if it's a story building, you've done the necessary, documentation. You've done your soil test, you've done your topography test, you've done your survey to ensure that you have conformed with all set standards, and to ensure that you are not encroaching on any of the government's property or properties set aside for special projects in future. So it is very crucial. People cry a lot about government coming down on them and breaking their buildings and pulling it down, but the question is, did they do the right thing? Did they do the right thing first? Can this be seen as what happens in the Western world? I don't think so. This is why when you see some buildings on the road or some buildings in some areas, you notice that they've gone far, and then government officials comes there and they mark it with an X, with a red paint, which is called an X. They mark it up for demolition. They say bring it down, and if care is not taken, those buildings within a week or two after the markings will be pulled down. Whenever you go to somewhere like Ikoyi or you go to VI, you notice that when they are building properties, you notice that there's a placard, there's a board outside the building project. This states the building, the engineering company that is going for the building. This also states the architectural designer, the company for the architectural designs. It also states the approval plan number, the approved plan number for that building. This means that all the necessary documentations towards the approval has been gotten. So when they are going on their project and approaching it, there will be no disturbance. Why do you want to go into the process of building when you don't have the right approvals? One of the things we do, like we always say, is documentation. From the survey to your approval documents, to your title documents, to even your architectural designs, we are here to hold your hands and help you get it done. Now, how do you go about the process of getting an approval for a building? What are the steps you have to take? Like, I'm going to talk to you like a layman, basic steps you need to take. I'll just try to break it down into 4. But of course, in the course of our conversation, you're going to see a list of all the necessary documents that will be used to process it. You as an individual, you don't need to go through this hassle because you have people like Andromeda Homes like us who are seasoned, who would go all the extra mile for you. Now, the first thing you need to do before you start the process of building is to first of all ensure you get a land. Now, when you get a land, you make sure you have conducted your due diligence before purchasing the land, after which you do your, what they call it, the survey, and make sure that the survey has been registered. Remember, I told you that survey is a map, it's a plan showcasing the measurement of a piece of land in a given area. So once you have conducted that, you ensure that the survey has been registered and the red copy is out. That means that survey has been registered with the state government in the lands registry. Your name is already up there. The next thing to do then, if the land you bought, even if it's a C of O land or is a governor's consent that you bought from somebody, it does not mean that you have to sit or rest on your house. It means that you need to go further and ensure that those documents are retitled, are changed to your name. Do not forget that the previous owner of the C of O is the one whose records is with the state or lands registry. So that means you need to go to the process of ensuring that the documents are changed into your own. How can you do this? After the survey, you get what we call the deed of assignment. Now, when you purchase a land, what gives you an empowerment on those property is the documentation you hold on that property. So when you have a deed of assignment, it shows that you own this property. Remember, land is what they call it, intangible. It is not a bag. It is not a book that you can carry up and down. It's an intangible object, but what you can use to prove that you own this property are the documentation we're talking about. So when you have a deed of assignment, it showcases your name and it showcases the right of transfer. It showcases the trace and the root of title of this property. Now, when you have the deed of assignment, now we start the process of what we call the titling of that land. Now you are lucky enough to have bought a property that is already titled, that is a governor's consent or a C of O or a government's allocation. It simply means that you have to go through the process of changing the ownership, the title ownership, by getting yourself a C of O or getting yourself a deed, or by getting yourself a governor's consent. After this has been done, when you have the documents, we go straight to what we call the architect. The architect comes up with the building designs for you with your understanding, like, okay, I want to build a duplex, I want to have a shopping complex here, I want to own a school, this is my design. Come up with something like this. Based on your information that you have passed on to the architect, it comes up with an architectural design. Now, when the designs are out, it is broken out into 3 different stages. We have what we call the structural, we have what we call the mechanical, and we also have what we call the electrical. Now, those things are broken down together and packaged together. This is what, after you have your, remember I said you have your registered survey, you have your deed of assignment, Then you have gotten your title document after the processing. Now you have what we call the architectural design. These are the documents you take to the state registry or to the town planning office for it to get the adequate approval. Now, these are just, I just try to simplify this by just mentioning just this first stage. There are a whole lot more, so I'm going to do something by ensuring that you look at your screen. You're going to see all the lists of the items. We're going to be talking about your passport, that is your passport photograph. We'll look at your documents, your survey, your agricultural designs. We'll look at the assessments. That's what we call assessments. Assessment is the kind of building that you're about to build. When the architectural designs is taken to the town planning office, they look at the kind of designs you have in mind and they assess it. So if you are not a taxpayer, if you have not been paying tax, you'll be, after the building project has, the proposed project has been assessed, they look at the kind of tax you would have to pay. Other statutory fees that you need to pay to will be included. All these are displayed right on the screen. So, but you don't need to go through this. This is why you have Andromeda Homes Limited. So these are the procedures for you to get what we call the building plan. Now, who should do your approvals for you? I'm sure with the list that you saw on the screen, it looks ambiguous to you and you're already worried that how am I going to go through this process? This is why you have us here. We at Andromeda Homes Limited are not just a real estate company. We are here to service you. We have all the teammates and the team members that you need for your approval processing. We talk about the legal department, we talk about the architectural designs department, we talk about the building department, and we talk about the surveying department. These are people that are seasoned, that are working in under a stable, so we are able to help you. Now, in doing this approval, we've gone far and wide, and we've also done to some people, we've done approvals for some people who have managed to build buildings without necessarily doing the right thing. We've been able to secure the approval documents for them. However, I'll have you know that it is always better to save a stitch in time, they say, always saves now. Now, when we look at all these things on the cases of approval just gives you a backing. It gives you like a cover. It is a security. Now, recently in the news, we heard about 2 or 3 weeks back, Landmark Beach is a notable event center, a notable beach resort that was having issues with the government in terms of its property. Now, according to the government's angle, their argument is that some of the property of Landmark is on the right of way, whereas Landmark is also saying that they got approvals from the government. This means simply that once you have your approved documents, you can ask for claims. Do not forget the saying that all lands in a state is owned by the state government. In spite of your approval documents too, I would have you know that if there is a special need that's for the citizen, it will supersede an individual's needs, especially if it's going to serve the joint purpose of the citizenry of the country or of the state. So these are things you need to think about. What happens is that once you have an approval, you are protected and you will be entitled to get full compensation for your property if any case of such happens. If you watch this video to the end, that means you would not want to miss the next series, which is still going to be on building approvals, but this time around we'll be focusing on waterfront and beachfront property. Now, so many people do not know how delicate it is to acquire beachfront property or waterfront property. They're just excited about the beauty of having a home in front of the beach. But there are crucial things that you need to do, especially when it comes to approval. There are special approval that it entails for you to own the property. There are special standards that needs to be met for you to own properties on the waterfront or on the beachfront. These are areas we're going to talk about. Now, if you have a friend or you yourself own a property you've acquired, or you are in the process of owning a property, then you don't want to miss this video. I advise you to quickly send this link out to your friend and tell a friend to tell a friend to send the link to their friend so that they can watch, because I assure you, you won't want to miss even a second on the next series of approvals on beachfront property and waterfront property. Thank you so much for watching. I believe you have been able to earn the privilege of your time. Bye for now.